girls, all of my trombaholics, and all of his Lightenites out there. Welcome back to Otherobert. I am Joe, joined here by
Robert, of course.
And we're reviewing the newest episode of The Walking Dead titled
Heads Up.
Heads Up. There we go. Oh, Heads Up. That's a kind of a familiar name for me. But
it's actually the name of an app that Ellen DeGeneres made for the iPhone and the iPad. That's where I heard it from.
But we digress. So, Walking Dead this week. We haven't reviewed it in a few weeks. It's been kind of slower. Past couple of weeks. Still a good season. Good half of the season, I would say. Definitely captivating in many ways. But past couple episodes were a little bit slower. This episode, I would say, is no exception. However, it really built up next week, big time in the last few minutes, and it's been keeping the story going. The kind of the struggle between Rick's group and Alexandria, and how there's still really a dividing line that's starting to become blurred with other members, but Rick himself is still very much on his own side of the line with stuff like, "Oh, you're helping these people," stuff like that. What do you think?
Rick is the Ricktator, so just that's how he goes. He's not changing. He's our main character. It's not Carl. I will not ever believe that it's Carl.
He killed Dale. Okay.
He killed Dale. Yeah, it's Carl. Carl's not the main character. It is Rick. He's the Ricktator. He's not going to change. I mean, when he confronted Morgan about why he didn't kill 5 wolves with his bow staff in the previous episode, it's like, it's a bow staff. Morgan can't kill anyone with a bow staff, and he just doesn't understand why people can be passive. But whatever, it's Rick. Just how he goes. And if that confrontation wasn't there between Rick or Rick's group and the Alexandrians, then there'd be like no on-set drama. Because then all you're doing is dealing with the intensive walkers.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're starting to see this half of the season. The Wolves. I think the Wolves are pretty much done. I mean, there's still that.
Yeah, they're done. I think the next new and main antagonist is supposed to be who we met last week with Daryl.
Wade.
Yeah, I think that's supposed to be them.
Well, so far it doesn't seem like, at least for this half of the season, it doesn't seem like we have a villain. We might have that wolf that's left. I think he'll come into play maybe. However, I'm really liking that it seems like what they're building towards is the walkers being the bad guy for a season in a way, in that they're the threat. And I mean, that is so overshadowed so much.
They're sort of like a minor antagonist, because you always have like an overarching one, like you have the governor, or you have God, I'm blanking on the names, like the people that kill the cannibals from the
right, Gareth,
thank you. You have so many overarching ones, and then like the walkers are just minor antagonists that pose a problem, but now just maybe having them all around is interesting as well, to be your true antagonist of the show, which they kind of are. But I would say the overall antagonist is Glenn. No, not Glenn. Carl. The overall antagonist is Carl.
He's my overall antagonist. We had the story with Carl and Jesse's son, and
I don't care.
Yeah, still kind of like teen drama, but now the guy's got a gun. So
yeah, he has a gun. Woohoo!
I don't know. And then we also saw some drama between Glenn and Enid, and that was kind of felt contrived.
Well, Enid is not a spy for the Wolves. I had thought about that for a little while because of her shadiness. So clearly she is not a spy. She just is extremely depressed.
Yeah, she just likes being on. She's basically your rebelling teen.
In a zombie apocalyptic world.
Yeah, she gets mad, runs off, and she's throwing a little hissy fit. Okay, I guess. Yeah. I mean, those two storylines between Jesse's son and Carl, and Enid and Glenn, really could have done without. They bring back Glenn. They show you that he didn't die,
and they showed how he survived. He was on top of he was below a body. And that body was ripped apart. Who was the body?
It was Nicholas.
Nicholas, yeah, he was under Nicholas's body, and Nicholas was ripped apart, but not Glenn.
Yeah, what comes to a surprise is no one. Everyone pretty much knew it at this point. There had been photos that leaked of Glenn on set with newer characters, but I mean, the pacing, I would say, would be a little off for me for that, because they build that up kind of for a month. They really leave it hanging, and everyone really wants to see, where's Glenn? Is he alive? Glenn 2015. They bring him back.
Yeah.
For 2 minutes. They show what happened right before the opening, and then he's with Enid for the remainder of the episode when we see him, and it left a lot to be desired. I would say in that sense, I would have left more to the beginning and less with Enid, because that just kind of awkward. I get it where they were going. However, personally, I think Enid's a pretty boring character.
Yeah, I don't really care for her either. I would say though that she had, I believe it was Enid that said this line, where she said that this world is dying. I thought that was the most interesting line of the episode. Some episodes of any TV show will always have a line that sticks with me, and I like that line quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely. I can see where you're coming from there. Those were pretty much two of the guiding storylines, I would say, for the episode. And then we also had Rick and kind
the
of
wall broke. I guess having the wall come down.
Rick the Builder.
Bob the Builder.
And the fellow Alexandrian and Rick's talk with Morgan. All that. Pretty much just Rick doesn't really know what to do with Morgan at this point. He's
conflicted because he doesn't understand why Morgan can't kill.
Yeah. And he says, pretty much you have to do at this point. And so we have that struggle going on between Rick and Morgan, which I think a lot of people were expecting going into this season, and we really didn't get too much. It was there, but
yeah, I would say it built up, like you said earlier, for the next one. This was sort of like also a very typical Walking Dead episode after having like the 2 episodes prior to it. We're dealing with multiple characters at once, because the 2 episodes before we're focusing on individual things or individual characters.
Right.
That's how I would say, like, it's actually kind of back to Walking Dead pace.
Yeah. And really the last thing for the episode was Rick, like we said earlier, Rick with the Alexandrians, really just, you still see that line, and they've made progress, but how far, at this point, because he still refers to it as us and them. And I'm curious to see after next week, because the preview for next week makes it look like a huge episode. I wonder if maybe that will be the thing that finally makes Rick say us. And I think that's what, personally, I think that's what we're going to get. And I'm intrigued really to see where it goes next week, because that looks like a crazy episode.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. In this case, the walkers are the enemy of the enemy.
No.
So solid episode for Walking Dead in terms of just building a good building episode. And that's all I have to say about it. So I think we're done here.
Yeah, and let us know what you guys thought of this week's Walking Dead. Let us know what your predictions are for the season mid-season finale, which is next week. It's already coming on.
I know, it's already been 8 weeks since the show started.
Crazy stuff here. Let us know what you thought, and subscribe, because it takes around this much effort just to do so. So, I mean, why not, right? And until next time, I'm Joe.
I'm Robert.
That's Rob. And you've been traumatized.
I'm not saying that.
Come on, and live nice. And live nice.
You said it, not me. Thank you all for watching, guys. Bye.